So we want to continue our thoughts in regards to how other commentators, Christian commentators, are looking at this problematic translation concern, and really becomes the foundation for the new perspective on Paul, and how we, as Western Christianity, might consider our interpretation to be biased, potentially, that we're reading the term justification into first century Judaism. Those are just some initial thoughts running through my mind as I look at some of your comments from discussion board. Again, the new perspective is very weighty, and I don't know if we even do justice in just touching on it in a few short videos. It's interesting that John Stott, in his commentary on the book of Romans, also makes some comments as he observes how Judaism might be observing the law as basis in the Old Testament, and how its outworking is seen here in the book of Romans. He makes the comment that in chapter 1, verse 20, that the Gentiles are without excuse. And if they're without excuse, as the law written on their hearts, the Jewish people are then also without excuse, as even having the law given to them by special revelation through Moses. And you look at chapter 2, verse 1, when Paul says in 2:1 that they're condemned by the judge of all the earth. Therefore, any one of you who judges is without excuse. So the anyone there is in reference both to Jew and Gentile, even as he squares his attention toward first century Judaism. No one will be declared righteous. No, not one, chapter 3. Now, Lutherans in history look through the glass a little bit differently in regards to this view of righteousness. Now, when someone brings this works of righteousness, it's done in a quality of philanthropic work. So I mentioned earlier that you could be a good doctor and seek to help the poor in your community. That's a good work. But that is mere external righteousness. There's nothing spiritually good that you could use this as a justification for your faith. So this is what Paul's arguing here, that there's nothing good in man. That what man does that looks good may be externally righteous, but that external righteousness will not stand in court. It makes them still guilty before God. E.P. Sanders, one of the proponents for the new perspectives on Paul, sees Judaism was not a works righteousness culture. Matter of fact, he would argue against maybe what Stott and Douglas Moo have presented in their commentaries. He says that Judaism has always been a faith-oriented system of believing, and when we read Paul's words in the epistle, we're reading them from a Western perspective. That's his argument. So that when we see this works orientation, we're seeing it from our Western culture, and E.P. Sanders saying, no, this is how Judaism has always lived out their faith, through observance of the law. It's interesting that Dunn also suggests some of the same nuances that E.P. Sanders has brought up in his commentary. That Dunn goes a step further than Sanders and says, no, Paul is writing to devout Jews who are looking at the law from a spiritual perspective. This inner group, they're part of this club, they're part of this community, and they are the privileged group, the privileged membership. And so Paul says, no, you don't have this small group, you're not part of this individualized membership club. This is included to everyone, the whole earth, everyone is included. And but just know that Dunn suggests that this is maybe where Paul is going to this secondary group in Rome as a potential interpretation. Westerholm says this: the works of law which do not justify are the demands of the law that are not met, not those observed for the for those by the Jews. Again, the works of the law which do not justify are the demands of the law that are not met. And that's how Westerholm sees what Paul may be arguing here in regards to righteousness and how righteousness is then applied in the heart. I'll try to apply some practical suggestions here in the next video.